Well, hello. I would like to talk to you about one of the most important things in gardening, and that's composting and how to make a simple yet really effective compost bin that anybody can do. It's very cheap, and I heard one time there were vegetable farmers and there were flower farmers, and then there were soil farmers, and the most successful are going to be those that farm and develop their soil. And there's no substitute for that. And so, with that said, let's get busy. I'll show you what you need for this little project. Okay, the first thing we're going to need is one of these food grade barrels, plastic barrel, and this one is old, but it'll last for another 20 years or so. And Mike, I still owe you $10. This was a $10 barrel, and you can buy them at feed stores or wherever. I'm gonna use a drill and a something to put screws in with. I'm gonna use a jigsaw, but you could use a lot of different things you could use to do the cutting. I've got some old door hinges. I'll use that, a latch, some screws. I'm going to use a square, even though it's not necessary at all, but I'm just going to go ahead and use it, and a marker. And I think that's about all we'll need for this project. So let's get busy. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is mark out my little door, and just make my line here. Oh, oops! Again, you don't need a square. Just it'll work just fine any way you do it. You want the door big enough that you can get in there and get things in it, get things out of it, and that'll work. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and drill some corner holes. I'm going to go ahead and use my jigsaw and cut this out. Before I cut it all the way out, I'm going to put my hinges on it. Let's measure from here to there. Okay, got our hinges. Now we're gonna put our latch on here. Border Patrol going by. I don't get many cars out here, but the Border Patrol just came by. I don't know, I'm 15 miles from the border or something like that. I'm just using these wood screws. They're good enough. They'll hold. Okay, I'm gonna cut my sides now. Okay, so here's our door. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is drill a bunch of holes, and I'm not going to put lines. I'm drilling with a 3/8 drill bit. And so we want a lot of holes in it. We want good airflow. I don't want bigger than 3/8 because the mice will get in there, and I don't want them to do that. So So I'm going to drill the ends of it too. Good enough. Okay, there in just, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe. We got a great compost container that'll make literally tons of compost for me, and will last, like I said, probably 20 years. I'm going to show you what I put in my compost mix so we'll talk about that. Okay, we have our compost bin made. What do we put in it? Well, of course, we're going to put things to compost in it. Composting is a little bit of a tricky situation. Everybody's got their rule, but if you go to most of the Cornell University, other universities that really study it, they say by weight, 30 of your browns carbon to 1 of your greens, which is nitrogen. So how does a normal person figure that out? How do I get it right? Well, the answer is I probably don't, but because it's tricky. Some carbon sources are really high carbon, 150 to 1, or some crazy number, and some sources are low. Well, cardboard's pretty high. It's a very high carbon percentage or whatever. So we figure it out by using a thermometer, and I'll show you that. Using a thermometer in our compost. And if your compost gets really hot really fast and then it drops down, well, you probably had too much of your greens in there, and it really didn't go through that thermal cycle. If it takes forever to get hot and it never really gets hot, you probably have too much carbon in there. So it's a trial by error type thing for a normal person. What I'm going to do, we keep all of our Amazon boxes, cardboard boxes. I've got an Amazon Basics shredder that does a great job on cardboard. I use this in my worms and in my composting. And my beautiful daughter, Julia, she has her friends keep kitchen scraps. And so this is some of the 1 bucket. I usually get 10 buckets at a time. This will be my nitrogen source. And so what I'm going to do is mix these two together in a wheelbarrow, get them wet. Anytime I have people keep kitchen scraps, I tell them to throw all their paper towels in there. I want the paper towels. So I'll do that right now, get that done. Okay, now we've got our browns and greens mixed together, and I've got it wet. It's that cardboard really sucks up a lot of water, so you want to make sure it's wet to start off with. And so what we'll do now is put our beautiful little compost bin to work. Okay, we got this beautiful compost container made. We got it full. It's not full, but it's got a little bit in it, and if you've ever made compost before, you know that mixing your compost is really a pain in the butt sometimes, and This is another reason I just love this thing is you put your stuff in there, you every couple days you keep it moist, give it a couple tumbles, and then that's about all you have to do. Okay, so it's a few days since I've made this, and I'd like to show you how it's working. Um, it's going through its thermophilic cycle. Everything's heating up really good, so I would like to just show you that. Okay, you may notice I took that center hasp off, and I just put two hasps just because I didn't want the edges to be too. Anyway, it is right now at it's about 125 degrees right now. So once I get it back in there, it'll go back up. So 125 degrees, everything is happening, working just fine. To end this video, I just want to remind you that you don't have to spend a fortune for gardening. A lot of times the cheap things are the best things. And really all I do with this, again, is I put my stuff in there every couple days, wet it down a little bit, kick it a couple times around, and it's good to go, and it works just fine. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next video.